Welcome to Football with Coach Michael Carson, streaming worldwide on Kingdom Life, Sports Media. No matter where you're watching or listening from, you're now connected to a virtual football experience designed to educate, inspire, and develop the next generation of athletes, coaches, and leaders. Hosted by former All-State running back, championship head coach, and respected program builder Coach Michael Carson, this show brings decades of Georgia football experience directly to your screen. Each episode delivers real football knowledge, game breakdowns, coaching strategies, leadership principles, player development, recruiting insights, and championship-minded conversations that help you grow both on and off the field. Whether you're a player chasing your dreams, a coach building a winning culture, a parent supporting your athlete, or simply a fan of the game, this is your home for authentic football insight. Real talk, real football, real impact. 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 Now, broadcasting around the world on Kingdom Life Sports Media, here's your host, Coach Michael Carson.
Good evening, ladies.
Coach Michael Carson.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Apologize for running behind tonight, but we want to welcome everybody to Kingdom Life Radio Sports Talk Show with Coach Michael Carson. And you know, it's a great day. It's Thursday evening, and we're just thankful to be here tonight to share some football insight with you guys and also talk to you a little bit about Beyond the Game curriculum. I also would like to welcome back for a second night my good friend, my teammate, my former Hornet, Bobby Goodwin. Big Bob, what's going on, baby? How we doing tonight?
I'm hanging in there, Mike. What about you, brother?
Hey, man, it's been a blessful day, brother. We here. Good Lord saw fit to get us up this morning and get us through this day. So we're going to captivate it with the coaches show here, and then a day will be fulfilled, my brother.
I agree 100%.
Yes, sir. Man, before we get started, man, I kind of want to just dive back into, you know, a little bit about the financial literacy that we talked about on Tuesday and kind of just, you know, give the parents, you know, and student athletes and coaches that may be listening to the show tonight, just give them an overview of what the Beyond the Game curriculum is all about, and particularly the financial literacy portion of that. And then we're going to talk a little football, man. We're going to talk a little football tonight. You know, as you know, particularly with our old mother dear, you know, we're going into the season this year, preseason rankings, #1 in the country. So
absolutely.
So we want to dive into that a little bit, man, and kind of just, you know, talk about the expectations of Alabama State University football.
Just to piggyback off of that, I saw a post by the Prairie View A&M coach that said they felt very disrespected going into the season because they obviously were the champions, and they felt that they were being disrespected with the season, you know, with the preseason rankings. And I wanted to comment, but I wanted to keep it classy, so I did not. To say that, you lost more games than Alabama State, #1. The schedule was not the same, #2. And then, we beat the brakes off of them, #3.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and the thing is, man, I think the competition this year is probably going to be pretty balanced across the SWAC conference. You know, you're going to have a lot of guys that teams that was, probably in the conversation last year, but, due to injuries and, quarterbacks being lost for the season, it kind of turned their season into, I wouldn't say disaster, but disappointing for a lot of them. And, this year it's going to be pretty competitive, man. And, we talk about the Prairie View guy, the head coach at Prairie View. Now, he got some ties to Alabama State University, right?
I didn't realize that. No.
Well, his tie is that he was coached in high school by a former Hornet.
Really?
Yeah.
Who was that?
Ernest Carswell.
Get out of here.
Yeah, that's Tex. Yeah, man, that's Tex former defensive tackle, man. I didn't
Houston, Texas.
In Houston. I forget at
Sterling.
Whitley.
Whitley. Okay.
At Whitley High School. Yeah, he played for him at Whitley High School, man. So, so that's funny, That's Tex. That's Texas guy, man. So he. I was talking with Tex a few weeks ago, and he was telling me how proud he was of this guy, man, and what he's been able to do, in a short period of time that he's been a head coach. And, it was even to the point to where, Tex was kind of hoping that he ended up on his staff out there. But, how Ernest is, man, he done been in the game a long time, and he ain't trying to do too much work, He's ready for one of those behind the desk jobs in terms of coaching, brother.
Yeah, I understand.
So that's interesting in itself. But anyway, man, let's recap, a little bit about the financial literacy, that we was talking about on Tuesday night. And I know you being in the profession, being a certified CPA, having your own financial company, and then also, diving into, really handling some athletes on the professional level in terms of being their CPA. What can when we look at the high school kid or the college kid now, what is the most important thing that they need to know as it relates to financial literacy?
I think the most important thing, Mike, to be honest with you, is that they need to take a partner when through the whole process, right? You just and learn the do's and don'ts about the NIL for that's number one. You got to familiarize yourself with the regulations, what's going on, and, be specific and learning the context that you're going to be dealing with. That's very important. When companies reach out to you, dedicate some time to understand, do your due diligence about that company to understand what it is that they do, what they offer, and some of the clients that they represent. Be your own brand ambassador, build a culture for your own self on and off the field. And that's basically talking about when you're putting stuff online, social media, any negative stuff that you posted in the past or continue to do, even stuff that you like, on social media can be misconstrued by some recruiters, right? And that could turn the recruiters off. So you got to be really smart about some of the stuff that you're posting and doing. Remember that incident some years ago when that tackle was getting drafted, and he posted a photo on social media with the mask on, smoking marijuana and stuff like that. I mean, stuff like that can hurt you big time and hurt your money. When people talking about giving you, possibly millions of dollars just for, you're in high school, one of the things they worry about is your maturity. And, and then you gotta, like I say, take a partner when you're talking to these companies. So you'll have a really good understanding of what it is that they're talking about, what the expectations are and things of that nature. And if you're going to have, somebody coming up to you, giving you contracts and stuff like that, talking about money, get with a lawyer, get with somebody that can read this contract and explain it to you like a fifth grader, because what's going to happen is that you're going to sign something just because you see the initial dollar sign, and you're pretty much going to sign your life away. It could be including future earnings that you have no intention of giving them, right? So all of this stuff is very important, particularly when it comes to financial literacy. We just can't jump into stuff without actually doing our due diligence and learning about what it is that we're doing. And if you do get the money like that, you have to be smart about it. And the NIL deals are done. And a lot of college coaches try to get the students and the parents to focus on people that they know that are reputable, and that's not advantage of them. And again, my advice would be, what we do pretty much is, the tax planning and compliance part of it, about the income, and what we tell them, what to do to earnings, what we think that could possibly get. And my first advice to anybody that's going to be coming into money is, get a lawyer, look at the contract, but then you got to come up with a financial plan with your family. Okay, and that financial plan with your family is pretty much dealing with, what am I going to do? Am I going to incorporate myself, or am I going to just put all this money in the savings, or am I going to get with a financial advisor and invest it? You have to come up with a plan. You just can't go out all willy-nilly thinking, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this money, spend it every week, and this, you can't spend it because that money is tax money. It's going to be taxable. And that's the part that I think most people, particularly the kids or whatever, they don't understand that part of it because they never had to deal with it before. And that's the part that's going to get a lot of them in trouble. And you'd be surprised some of the horror stories that I've heard about kids that are taking this money and just, basically throwing it away and going out and buying stuff. And I'm thinking about it. And a lot of times it comes from kids that have never experienced, finances like that before in their lives. Some of the parents have never dealt with money like that, and they don't know what to do. And listening to your next door neighbor is something you don't want to do, because that can definitely get you into trouble. But again, budgeting is a big part of it. Saving money is a huge part of it. And I can't emphasize that enough, Mike. And I know there's some of the stuff we put inside of Beyond the Game. For some of the kids, we gave them a very strict, a very outline, a detailed outline of what it is we need them to do. Some of the biggest mistakes they make is spending every paycheck, ignoring the tax part of it, failing to it and falling into these investment scams. People, guaranteeing them returns, or, your friend coming up, hey, I know you got $100,000 on your NIL, give me some of that money. You can't do stuff like that. And then, they want to, well, if they've already spent quite a bit of it, you can go out and try to borrow more money against that for the next year. And again, it just don't work like that. You can't let your friends and your family pressure you into spending or lending them money or anything of those nature, because once you come into money like that, you don't have any more friends. Not everybody is a predator, and they're going to, unless it's your mother, your father, or your close relatives, you're going to be seen as a bank. And you can't do that. And, you got to be smart about that. I think you should hire a team, depending on how much you make, a CPA or tax professional or EA, an attorney, a financial advisor. You should meet with all those people and be a part of the team, because, the NFL guys have those people on their team. And, in that order, they have to, because they have to maintain, all the different things that's required by law. And NIL kids going to start doing that too. God forbid if they change the laws and now these kids become employees of the university, then it's going to go to a whole nother stratosphere of, from them receiving payments or whatever. So now you're looking at unemployment compensation that you have to, just apply for. Then you have to get insurance. So all these other things that go along with the laws changes is going to be huge. So that's why you just can't throw the money away and not have a team and plan around, your future. Remember, we were talking about the 50% needs and the 20% savings and the taxes and the wants and the needs. You can't just have an inflated lifestyle because you all of a sudden, came into a lot of money. You got to be humble, number one, and thankful. But also, I can't emphasize enough, putting a team together to do some of this stuff for you. And with that, just don't have, get interview people, interview people that's going to be coming in, interview the financial advisor or the CPAs or the tax professionals or the lawyers, talk to these guys and see what kind of experience they have. Everybody's going to sound good because everybody have a sales pitch they're going to offer these kids because they know the kid is not familiar with what's going on. And in most cases, neither are the parents. So it's just a lot of things like that, Mike, that, a lot of kids are not prepared for. And they just need to sit down and have a conversation with somebody and just get an outline. An outline of what it is they need to do. That's pretty much it.
All right, Mr. Goodman. Mike stepped away for a minute. As soon as we get him back, we'll get him on. So let me ask you a question. When it comes to dealing with kids and them choosing universities and some of the things that you'll hear now is, well, I'm going to where the money goes. What's some of the advice that you can give parents and even the players when it comes to choosing the right situation for them?
First thing I would do is actually, depending on the state they're going to be going to, remember on my last conversation, we talked about state tax and things like that. You want to be very mindful of that particular state. And also the contract that they're offering you has to be airtight, which could include, travel for your parents back and forth to the games or even on away games, or travel back and forth for you, that's part of your compensation package. So you have to, again, that's why I say you need to surround yourself with a solid team that can help you navigate all these different waters, because there's so many things that you're going to be unfamiliar with that you never had to deal with before.
Oh, you're definitely right. I'm looking at some of the laws that let's pivot just a little bit. I'm looking at even from the collegiate level, we're seeing that what's his name from the University of Alabama, former coach Nick Saban, is trying to do things to put a cap on this NIL and put a cap on the transfer portal and all that. What can you speak to that?
I would agree with that. I think what's happening is that it's going to get out of hand. And more importantly, again, when you're giving money to people that's not familiar with money, or giving money to kids and offering them this money without any type of structure or people in place to help them understand the contracts, it's going to be devastating, to that particular child or kid, because in all actuality, they are kids and they don't understand the value of the money they're going to be getting. All this is, again, are the dollar signs. But the parents, again, if you've never dealt with that, the parents probably never had $100,000 off to them at one time. What do you do?
Right.
Do you go to owe them a bills off? Well, it's not your money, number one, as a parent. But then again, your child, you have to prepare for his future or his or her future, because one of the things that, like Mike spoke about the other day, only a small percentage of people make it to the NFL or the NBA or the Major League Baseball or whatever. So you got to plan for life after sports, which means that comes with putting money aside and trust, things like that, to have money for later on. That would be one of the things I would give them, is definitely put money inside of a trust, so you don't have to, you can't just spend all this money at one time. Finish your education. Focus tremendously on what you want to do. Even if you do make it in the NFL, what you want to do after the fact. But again, I emphasize putting a team together, because nobody can do it on their own, number one. And again, planning for all the things that you're going to be facing is huge. When I have meetings with people, I have a team together. We've talked about scenarios, do's and don'ts, what's possible. Even school that the kid is going to be going to. So we're going to have a conversation with them about the school, about the financial structure and things like that.
Right. That's an excellent point. Go ahead, Coach.
Yeah, Bobby, let me ask you this. What is the benefits of someone setting up an LLC in their name and just paying themselves as an employee?
Well, once you set up an LLC, in order to pay yourself, you have to set up an S corp right after that, right? And the S corp is a federal entity, or the LLC is a state entity, right? So once you set up the S corp, you're letting the IRS know that I'm going to be paying someone a monthly or biweekly salary, right? And so when you file your taxes, you file the taxes on the S corp 1120S form saying, hey, this is how much money I made in my business. Now you only claim the profits that you made after expenses on your personal taxes. So if you made $100,000 and all your expenses come to $80,000, then what would happen is that you only move over the $20,000 to your personal taxes, not the full $100,000. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that a lot of people don't quite understand. And a business is separate from your personal assets. So if you made $100,000 or $1 million, whatever the case may be, after expenses, whatever you have left over, the profit moves over to your personal taxes, and you're taxed on that part. The S corp, you file those taxes. You just let the IRS know this is what I made, and this is what the business expenses are for this particular entity that I have. So the benefits also offer a legal protection if somebody try to sue you. Now that comes with a lot of other things like piercing your veil and maintaining certain standards. And which is a huge thing. You can't take money out of your personal expenses to pay, buy groceries. It got to be strictly business, so all those things are part of it. And then IRS, they don't, they do digital, but, tax code 6001, books and record keeping, they're very serious about that. So you have to keep up with this stuff. It's not just, you just don't have a business set up to have a business set up. You have a business set up to actually maintain records and keep the things like tax code 162, business expenses. When you have a business expense, you have to keep that. You have to be able to record that and show them the IRS, this is what I had, this is what I did. You just can't put down a number and expect the IRS to accept that.
Right.
And so a lot of people are just not familiar with that, just those terms. And that's a huge part.
Can I
Sure.
So basically, Coach, is what I hear y'all guys saying, and I'm gonna get off this after this segment, is that from ninth grade to day one, our families need to get engulfed in this kind of language and understand the terminology that's being taught to make sure that their children at all sports is getting a fair shake. Is that what I hear?
Well, basically,
Absolutely.
I would go even further to say, you really want to start educating them in the 6th grade. You want to go as far down as the middle school, because what you have is, by the time these guys get to middle school and get to the 8th grade, some of these guys have already accumulated some offers from colleges, as 8th grade. So I would say, from middle school all the way through, the freshman year in college, they need to have this information. This is information, that will help guide them. And as Bobby indicated, you want to make sure that you got a team around you. You want to make sure that you got a trusted team around you.
Absolutely.
It's a lot of guys out there right now in this space that's not certified. They're acting as agents, of these kids, and they're giving them bad information, and they're trying to represent them at the table when it comes to their NIL deal, And so what we're trying to do is really educate our parents, our young student athletes, our coaches, our school administrators, trying to just basically give them some tools that they can work with in terms of really, educating that population and giving them the guidance they're gonna need to move forward. And I was speaking. I don't know if you guys know Buddy Curry or not.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, Buddy. I was on the phone with Buddy the other day, and I sent him a copy of my curriculum, and he called me the other day, just really raving about the information that's in the curriculum, how comprehensive it is, and how, he's going to use that curriculum on his platform with the student athletes that he interact with, within his Kids and Pros program. So that was a big plus, man, and incentive coming from a retired NFL guy, a Atlanta Falcon Ring of Honor guy who touched kids' lives on a daily basis to speak about the Beyond the Game curriculum. So I was really applauded and excited, man, and from what his feedback was, and it lets me know that we're on the right track, in terms of really trying to get this information out there to these young student athletes and these parents to really educate them and teach them how to be able to navigate, this new process that they're dealing with on a daily basis. And so it's just super exciting, man. But listen, Bobby, I appreciate that info, and I know our host, Bishop, appreciate it as well. And I hope our audience appreciate the information that we're giving them because it's invaluable. It's definitely tools that you're going to need to utilize going forward if you have children that are participating in youth athletics or high school athletics or college athletics. And I want to thank you guys, for that. But Bobby, let's dive off into Alabama State for the next few minutes, man. We don't have about 4 minutes, and really want to get your thoughts and your opinion on what you think this year's team. I mean, all the hype is around Alabama State University. So, what do you think, man? You think this is the year that we get over the hump and get to the SWAC championship and the Celebration Bowl?
I think it is. I think if Eddie doesn't take us there, then I think we're going to have a problem with Eddie because you have a quarterback, you have a pretty good seasoned offensive line, you have a defense that's been exciting each and every year. Coach James will be proud of that defense that they have. So I think they got good coaches in place. I think they have the athletes in place. I think that it really needs to dig deep and bring whatever he can out of those guys, right? Because this is the year, man. Has to be the year. And I think we on that quarterback, Bodie, but at the same time, too much is given, much is expected. So he needs to really produce this year. But I think this is a perfect opportunity for them to take advantage of it. I think they can. I think they're going undefeated. I think they can beat Troy. In all actuality.
I was going to ask you, Coach. I'm not a SWAC. I'm not a SWAC guy, but I was going to ask you, what's the greatest competition you see this year for Alabama State?
I see us against Jackson State. All the games are going to be tough, man. To be honest with you, people don't realize the SWAC East is probably the toughest conference out there. But you got a couple teams over there in the West. I got to get my hats off to Prairie View over there. And then I got to watch out for Grambling over there as well. But in the East, we're going to have to deal with Jackson State, Florida A&M, Alabama A&M, and Jackson and Alabama A&M are traditional rivals for us. So, those are going to definitely be some major tests for us to be able to get through. But I'm like Bobby, the expectation is huge for us this year. And, we got the number one quarterback in the country in the FCS. We got Wendell Hallclaws, the running back that's returning. He's one of the top running backs in the SWAC. Deshaun Sims, who's a defensive linebacker. He's one of the top defensive players in the SWAC. So we got the tools, man. And like you said, Eddie just got to bring it together, man. And I think the expectations is for them to get over the hump this year and win the SWAC East, win the SWAC championship, and win the Celebration Bowl. So we're definitely looking forward to this season. I think the kids report next Wednesday, and things get really busy, man. They get to preparing for Southern University in the Labor Day Classic in Birmingham. So, Southern has a new coach in Marshall Falk. So we just hope and pray, man, that we be ready to answer the call.
That's going to be a major test. That's going to be a major test with Marshall Falk. I'm sure he's drilling those guys, for excellence right there. It's going to be tough for Alabama State.
That's
Exactly.
excellent. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Eddie Marshall is with the Hall of Fame and all that he's done in the NFL and the experience he had on Prime's sideline. It's a lot of expectations on his shoulder to turn that program around. But
It is.
yeah.
Well, listen, man. I know it's been a long day for us, and we are happy and glad that you guys are tuned in to the Coach Carson football show on Thursday night. Ken, we look forward to you guys coming back and joining us on Tuesday. But what we hope to do, guys, is hope to give you some segments on the Beyond the Game curriculum, where you can get that on the Beyond the Game curriculum website, and that's beyondthegamecurriculum.com. Go out and get your copy. Retails for $69. And if you know of any student athletes that you know that needs this book, go out and get it for them. This is Coach Carson. I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. We look forward to seeing you guys next Tuesday